Howdy folks, welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. It's tank review time once again, and I really don't do many of these tank reviews anymore, do I? I'm going to have to see what I can do about that. Well, today we're going to be looking at the Caernarvon British Tier 8 heavy tank. Development of this tank began in 1944, so technically this is a World War II vintage tank. 21 prototypes were built, but the British decided they didn't really like where this thing was going, and so development was halted and production was switched over to developing the Conqueror. Some of the prototypes did have the chassis reused in the Conqueror development, so if you think that the Conqueror just looks like a Caernarvon with a different turret, now you know why. If I had to sum up the Caernarvon in one sentence, that sentence would be, it's not a bad tank, but it's not a particularly good tank either. It definitely has some good features, but it's got a lot of bad features as well. Not enough bad features to make this a bad tank. It's not a bad tank. But at the same time, nobody's ever going to be saying, oh my god, I just unlocked the Caernarvon, it's the best tank in the game. There is a lot to like about the Caernarvon after driving the other British heavy tanks like the Churchill Black Prince, the Churchill Mark 7 and the Churchill Mark 1. Unlike those tanks, this thing is actually capable of moving without a good solid push from behind. It's certainly no speed demon, but with a top speed of 34.3 km per hour, it makes its predecessors look like bunkers on the Siegfried line. While the manoeuvrability isn't particularly good, with a track reverse of 24 degrees per second, it's still 4 degrees per second better than any of the tanks that preceded it. And the power to weight ratio isn't bad either. There's not a lot to choose from between the power to weight ratios of the Caernarvon, the IS-3 and the T-32. So, as far as speed and manoeuvrability are concerned, it's still a heavy tank. It's never going to beat a Pershing in a drag race, but there's a lot to get excited about if you've just graduated to this from a tank like the Black Prince. How about the gun? Well, the Caernarvon gets the Type B barrel 20-pounder gun, and this is unquestionably the single best gun any of the British heavy tanks have had up until now. You don't see this gun on the medium tanks until you get to Tier 9 on the Centurion Mark 7. This gun has 226mm of penetration, 258 if you load APCR ammunition. It has 230 average damage. It has a very, very good .32 accuracy and a phenomenally good 1.9 second aiming time. This is a very, very good gun. If you're driving a medium tank or a Tier 7 heavy tank, and the Caernarvon is neither of those. That doesn't mean it's a bad gun on the Caernarvon, but it's definitely not a heavy tank gun, and it's definitely not a Tier 8 heavy tank gun. It's a very, very similar gun to the kind of guns that you see on the French Tier 7 heavy tank, the AMX M445. That has a DCA 45 90mm cannon, which has very, very similar characteristics to this 20-pounder. It's also a very, very similar gun to the KWK 43 88mm gun that you see on the German Tier 7 heavy tank, the Tiger. The 88mm gun on the Tiger has superior rate of fire and superior alpha damage, which means that the Tiger has a gun that's capable of producing damage per minute of 2,150, and it's at Tier 7. Here at Tier 8, with a very similar 20-pounder gun, but with inferior rate of fire and alpha damage, that means that the Caernarvon's damage per minute output is 1,768. That's actually less than the Black Prince. So here at Tier 8 you've got a British heavy tank that actually has inferior damage per minute than the Tier 7 heavy tank that preceded it. Now the Black Prince could get away with that because it's a very heavily armoured Tier 7 heavy tank. So having a medium tank gun and having to stay exposed and constantly keep the gun firing in order to do any appreciable amount of damage kind of worked on the Black Prince. Can it work on the Caernarvon as well? It better have good armour. Oh dear. On paper at least, the armour of the Caernarvon is a definite improvement over that of the Black Prince. The turret is unquestionably better than the Black Prince's turret. In fact, the stock turret on the Caernarvon is the Black Prince's turret. The upgraded turret is the Mark II Centurion turret, and the Centurion has a fantastic turret. It's 112mm thick at the sides and rear, it's 165mm thick at the front, and it's got that notoriously troll Centurion gun mantlet. The hull armour at the sides and rear is so monstrously bad it actually makes American heavy tanks look pretty good. You definitely cannot side scrape with 51mm of side armour. Well, you can, but you better not expose any more than your tracks, otherwise you're going to be in a world of hurt. The frontal hull armour, while at 130mm isn't technically as thick as that of the Black Prince, it is sloped back at a very, very good angle, so at least on the upper glacis, you have functionally superior armour over the Black Prince. The problem is that the Black Prince doesn't get shot at by Tier 10 medium tanks with their APCR ammunition, and it sees a lot more Tier 9 medium tanks than the Black Prince, a lot of whom also fire armour-piercing composite rigid ammunition as standard, and that's before we even start getting shot at by monsters like the Jagdpanzer E100, something that no Black Prince driver ever has to worry about. So having functionally superior armour to the Black Prince is pretty meaningless when you consider the kind of games that the Caernarvon can get into that the Black Prince doesn't. Having said that though, the turret on this thing is pretty good. It's that old Centurion turret. I mean, it's no T29, T32 or T30, but it's not bad. As long as you can keep the hull of the Caernarvon covered up, in most of the kind of games this thing's going to get into, you're going to be pretty good. Unfortunately, it's hard work keeping the hull of this thing covered up, because it's bloody huge. Of course, none of this means that the Caernarvon is a bad tank. It's not a bad tank, it's just not a particularly good one. There are things that the Caernarvon can do, there are things that the Caernarvon cannot do. It's definitely no IS-3. You're not going to be leading many charges in the Caernarvon. Well, you can, but you need to pick the terrain carefully. The IS-3 is a pretty strong tank. You can make a lot of mistakes in the IS-3 and get away with it. It's quite popular among bad players because they can make a lot of mistakes in the IS-3 and live to tell the tale. You can't make many mistakes in the Caernarvon. If you're going to do well in this thing, you really do need to know what you're doing. A lot of people will say that the Caernarvon is basically just a slow, fat, heavier, less manoeuvrable Centurion. And there's a certain element of truth to that. But when you come to upgrade the tank, you're going to be grateful for it if you've gone down the medium tank line in the British tech tree, because the Caernarvon reuses a lot of the components in the British medium tanks. If you are the proud owner of a Centurion Mark 7, then when you come to look at the upgrades on your Caernarvon, you're going to find out that the only things that you actually have to spend any experience on are the tracks, the turret, and the top engine. You are probably going to want to get the turret first, and not just because it's a great turret, but because if you don't get the turret first, you're using the Black Prince turret, and if you're using the Black Prince turret, you can only use the 17-pounder gun. Now, a lot of people will ask, should you bother getting the Type B barrel 20-pounder gun on the Caernarvon at all? It's not that much better than the Type A barrel gun, and you don't have to unlock it in order to move up to Tier 9 and get the Conqueror. My recommendation would be that you get that gun on the Caernarvon anyway. And the reason I say that is not just because it is a better gun, but also because it drastically shortens the grind on the Conqueror, because before you can unlock the Conqueror's turret and the Conqueror's 120mm gun, you're going to have to unlock the 20-pounder Type B barrel, and the less time you spend driving a Conqueror around at Tier 9 with a 20-pounder gun, the happier you'll be. So that is the Caernarvon, the British Tier 8 heavy tank. Is it really a heavy tank? Well, no, not really. It's a Centurion, except it's bigger, slower, not as manoeuvrable, it's easier to hit, but it does have a better gun. You definitely do need to know what you're doing when you're driving the Caernarvon, in a way that you really don't need to know what you're doing when you're driving an IS-3. And to show you the sort of thing that I'm talking about, it's time to crack on with the replays. This may very well be the very first game I ever played in the Caernarvon. Now, obviously, just looking at it, it's not a stock Caernarvon. Now, I'd completely unlocked all of the British medium tanks, so there was no way I was ever going to have to drive a stock Caernarvon. I was always going to have the gun unlocks, I was always going to have one of the engines unlocked, and I was always going to have all of the radios unlocked. What I was not going to have unlocked were the tracks, the top engine, and the turret. And as you can see there, I do have the turret. The reason I have the turret is because while I have not driven a stock Caernarvon, I have a brain and an imagination, and I can imagine only too well what it must be like driving a stock Caernarvon with the Black Prince turret and what amounts to the TOG 2's 17-pounder gun in Tier 8 matches. And nope, I'm not going to do that. So I unlocked the turret with free experience, which immediately enabled me to fit the Type B barrel 20-pounder gun from the Centurion Mark 7. Driving the Caernarvon in the stock configuration must be quite a nightmare, and I'm not sorry in the slightest that I missed out on it. Now, in this match, this was actually on Rita's live stream. She's platooned up with me in the IS-3. We're pushing up into the town here, and we've met very, very little opposition. The enemy team, well, they weren't very good. And that's the thing about the Caernarvon. You can do very, very well against bad players in this tank. Good players, on the other hand, who understand the weaknesses of this tank, of which there are many, will hand you your ass on a silver plate. This is why I'm letting Rita go ahead in the IS-3, as that's what the IS-3 is for. The Caernarvon is very much a support tank. Well, the Caernarvon enjoys being a support tank. It doesn't enjoy having to be the heavy tank. That's why I'm letting Rita go first, because she's got a proper heavy tank. Super Pershing, tracked sideways on in front of me. This is going to be easy. I can't really angle my armour here, but didn't need to. Working together with Rita, concentrating on fire, and taking them down one at a time. T-29, the old 1-2 from me and Rita. The enemy team really, really let us have our own way on this side of the map. Did spot a KV-2 up there though, and with the armour on this thing I really don't want to get shot at by a KV-2. Plenty of backup, and oh, there he is, fired on the move and hit him, and look at him, come at me bro. It's actually British Secret Service from Circumflex's clan. He knows he's screwed, he's got no chance, but he's making a brave face of it. And yep, I very, very nearly have my tank completely wrecked by our own artillery. Took a shot at the charging KV-2 as I passed within 5 metres of him, nearly hit me. Yeah. What are you going to do? Well, anyway, we're in the enemy base, so this is good. And we've only lost 3 tanks doing it. The enemy haven't even managed to push over the railway bridge to the south. So, like I said, it's very, very easy to do very well indeed in the Caernarvon against bad players. And there were no shortage of bad players on the enemy team, but they did have a couple of good ones as well. Their artillery players in particular. Oh, there we go. The M40 driver just suicided, and he was one of their best players, so yeah. I don't know. This Lerva is definitely not having a very good day. I couldn't ask for better shots at this guy. Oh, he's starting to pay attention to me, so pull back. That gives the guys on the field 3 shots at him. Pop out again. Yeah, he's turned his gun the other way. Will I get another one? Come on, one more. No, I'm not going to get another one. Okay. The GW Tiger P is still in the game, so I'm going to go looking for him, and oof, side shot from a Rheinmetall Borsig did a lot of damage and crippled my engine, so get that repaired. And there's the GW Tiger P. He's not suiciding, he's making a stand. Good for him. Didn't kill him. I'm never going to kill him with a 230 average damage shell, but at least I got the money's worth out of the shot. I did full damage. Unfortunately, Rita has just been taken out by the Rheinmetall Borsig, and there he is, the sneaky little bugger. I get a shot into him, but again with 230 average damage, I'm going to have to hit him a couple of times to kill him. And he's got a really, really big gun, and he's already managed to stealth. IS-3, head on, long range, 226mm of penetration, good enough. And it sounds like that 4502A just took a hit from the Borsig, blew his tracks off, and the Borsig, just nowhere to be seen. He's just taken another hit. So somebody's going to have to go down there and flush him out. I do make an error of judgment here. The Tiger pops up, and this is a good shot, and it's a testament to the accuracy of the gun that I even hit that Tiger, but I shouldn't be stopping. There it is. I should not be stopping when I know there's a stealth Borsig down there. Should have kept moving forward and got the wreckage of this Lerva between myself and any possible chance of the Borsig landing another shot on me. Of course, that means I don't have very good shots at this Tiger anymore. But better that than getting hit by the Borsig again. I'm not the only one shooting at them, of course. And there's only 2 of them left. I mean, we're never going to lose this game at this stage. It's just a question of, can I get any more kills? Can I get any more damage done? Using the wreck of the Lerva as cover. There he is. Oh, this isn't good. Fired up and missed. The Borsig's return shot looks like it hit my gun mantlet. And he was firing high explosive, and the splash is what actually took my tracks off. But I didn't lose any health. I managed to get a return shot into him, and then he's dead, and it's game over. And watch that Black Prince. Lost in battle. He rage quit. Right as we won. Makes no sense whatsoever. Well, anyway, one of my very first, if not my very first game in the Caernarvon, and pretty bad enemy team. Did very well in the Caernarvon against them. The only statistically good players on their team were the artillery drivers, and we just didn't give them time to have any influence on the game. We pushed forward through the town far too aggressively. The enemy team allowed us to do it, shut the artillery down. They had no chance to have a good game. One of them rage quit and killed himself because, you know, artillery. A pretty good match. Not much of an opportunity to do a whole lot of damage in that match. Came top, but everybody else on the team was just killing tanks left, right and centre. So, once again, up against bad teams, you're going to do well in the Caernarvon. How about when the enemy team isn't quite that much of a pushover? Well, for that, we're going to need the assistance of Jojo2802 in his Caernarvon on Malinovka. It's still generous matchmaking. It's a tier 8 match, but, well, let's just say that the spread of donkeys on both teams is a little bit more even than in the previous match. Now, while I wasn't shy about leading the charge in my Caernarvon in the previous game, I never really came across any kind of credible opposition. The tanks that we did run into, we came across pretty much one at a time, and there weren't that many of them. We overwhelmed them with superior numbers and firepower, so I was never in really any great danger in the previous game. In this match, Jojo's going to run across some substantially stiffer opposition, and he's really going to have to drive this thing well. He's at least going to have to drive it better than that Hellcat driver. Hey everybody, look how fast I can make my tank go. Yeah, look how fast you can get your tank killed. Hellcat drivers. I don't know. Well, he's been spotted. Unsurprising, got spotted from the lower valley there. Now there's no artillery, so that is a massive plus. When you're driving a tank that has armour as poor as this, if there's artillery in the game, particularly if you're top tier, artillery loves shooting at Caernarvons. Huge engine deck at the back of the turret, massive target for artillery. Penetration there, you're practically guaranteed to do full damage. He takes one hit from the T-34-3 and his tracks take it. Here comes an IS. Plants one. Looked like it, not sure if it went into the commander's hatch or the turret front, but they're trying to get around him. He's got to back off. Now, the Caernarvon does not have great armour, except on the turret. And he is approaching from lower ground, which means that his upper glacis is going to be, it's already pretty well angled. But because his tank is angled backwards, that means that the shots that they do have at him are either going to hit that notoriously troll turret front, or they're going to hit an increasingly well-angled upper glacis. And this is what I'm talking about when I say you have to know how to use the terrain effectively when you're driving the Caernarvon. This is actually not a bad position for him to be in. If artillery was in the game, he'd probably be in all kinds of trouble. The rest of his team are being very reluctant to move up and support him up here, and there are a hell of a lot of enemy tanks on the top of this hill. But he keeps popping up, taking the shots, keeps the gun working. You're going to be amazed at the amount of shots that he ends up firing during the course of this game. Unsurprisingly, they've lost the Hellcat. Yes, I'm sure nobody saw that one coming. Again, he's only really exposing the turret to enemy fire here. So he hasn't actually taken any damage yet. VK there going YOLO, but plenty of tanks behind him, should be able to deal with that guy. Doesn't really want to turn the tank around and expose the side to these guys at the top of the hill, and yep, T-29 finishes him off. FCM-50T, good tank. But again, from lower ground, all the target that he's given this guy, in combination with his good gun depression, is his turret front or his upper glacis, and angled back as it is, he's never going to penetrate the upper glacis. And he's going to have to be pretty accurate to get through the turret front. And speaking of YOLOing tanks, what the hell is this T-34 thinking of? You're really that desperate to kill an FCM-50T? Keeps going for the engine shots. When you only do 230 average damage per shot, you really do have to maximise where you're going to put these shells, and he constantly keeps trying to set these tanks on fire by hitting them in the engine, which is a sensible thing to do. T-34 just threw his tank away there. They are ahead by 1 kill. And there are now substantially less enemy tanks on the top of the hill. What the hell was the Fury thinking? There was no way that was ever going to end well for the Fury. Ran right into a crossfire from a Cherie and a T-34-3 and an IS. Just nope, that's never going to happen. T-29 going over. He looks like he's hungry for a bit of Cherie. T-34-3 still up there, coming around. Looks like he's doing a YOLO run as well. His first shot misses. Takes a big old hit there. Second shot does not miss. He's going for the IS-3. And boom! Swings him around. Throws the gun right off target. Gives the IS-3 the chance he needed to defend himself. There's another kill. Still plenty of enemy tanks up here. Bounces another shot. There's the Cherie. Plants one into him. Looks like he's reloading. Nashorn on the hilltop there. And it's the Nashorn, surprisingly. I think it's the Nashorn that's the first tank in this entire game up to now to do, there it is, do any actual damage to his tank. They've lost the T-29 because that's what happens when you YOLO into 3 tanks at once. Nashorn is now a one-shot kill. You got him. Going for the Cherie, who is not paying any attention. More concerned with the targets to his front. And now this IS has just run out of friends. He keeps going for the tracking shot, but 230 average damage, you're not guaranteed to blow the tracks off a tank, even if you hit them in the drive wheel. IS bounces another shot off the gun mantlet. And the IS has got to go over the edge of the cliff or he's going to die. He's only prolonging the inevitable. They are being capped, by the way. And Jojo's team is losing. Unbelievably, after that performance on the top of the hill, it's hard to believe that the team is still somehow managing to lose. I'm going to nail this IS. There we go. On the move, like a boss. Got to get down into the cap. So what have they got? They've got a... well, Caernarvon. The IS-3 is a one-shot kill, so he's not going to be doing anything brave. They also have a Type 58, and the Type 58 has a fair amount of health. The enemy team have a Lerva, a Pershing, a T-34-2 and a Hellcat. So the T-34-2 and the Hellcat are probably in the cap circle. And it's been spotted, and there's the Hellcat, and it missed. But the big issue is that he's been spotted. Now they know he's coming, and they know where he's coming. And oh my god, the Lerva's stuck. Look at that. Well, he's got to reset the cap. I'm sure he'd love to farm damage on the Lerva, but he has to reset the cap. His first shot didn't do it, but the T-34-2 is just sitting there, so fine, okay. There we go, he's hit him. Now he needs to hit the Hellcat, but first he has to find the Hellcat, and the T-34-2 is making the maximum available use of cover. There's the Hellcat. Hellcat bounces one, and caps reset. So now he's got all the time in the world, and he can farm some free XP on that Lerva. Has the Lerva been paying attention? Is his gun pointing this way? No, of course it isn't. Pershing over the ridge there, doesn't really have a shot at the Pershing, but hey, free XP and damage on the Lerva. And I have to admit, because I haven't really seen much of Malinovka in recent patches, this took me by surprise. I honestly thought the Lerva was trying to suicide and drown himself, but it turns out that tanks can actually cross this section of the lake now. So this came as a big surprise to me. I tend to avoid this lake because I'm used to it being a death trap. Keeps going for the engine shot, again trying to maximise his potential of doing damage without having to expose his tank. It's going to take one more. I mean, he got a decent damage roll on the gun, but yeah, it wasn't enough. He's going to beat the Lerva's reload. Bingo, there you go. Now, while he's doing that, the enemy team have built up a substantial amount of cap points once again. So he's going to have to get up there and reset the cap. Using the bushes there as concealment. You can see them both. Bingo, there's the T-34-2. And can't see the Hellcat, but the T-34-2 is going to keep giving him. Oh, and he's shot him from the front and set him on fire. How's that for irony? All those engine shots that he took, no engine fires. T-34-2 shot from the front, engine fire. The only thing left is the Hellcat. He's down to his last round of armour piercing. He doesn't really need to, but he switches to APCR. There's the Hellcat. And there's the game. It's Jojo 2082 in the Caernarvon. How much damage do you think he did in this match? There's his results screen. Unsurprisingly, ace tanker, defender, high caliber, top gun, 108,000 credits earned. Nearly 3,000 experience, and that's not doubled for the first win of the day. So how much damage do you think he did? 4,000? 5,000? Do I hear 6,000? How about 7,631? I was feeling pretty good about my result until I saw this. And he spotted a fair few of those tanks at the top of the hill himself. How much damage do you think his team managed to do to the tanks that he spotted? 279. Pretty much everything that he spotted, he killed himself. Unbelievable. But played to the strengths of the tank. Good turret front, decent gun depression, upper glacis that, when angled back, is very, very bouncy indeed, and he used the terrain to the maximum potential of the tank that he was driving, and he got the result he deserved. So, the Caernarvon, the British Tier 8 heavy tank. I like the Caernarvon. I mean, that in and of itself isn't a particularly great recommendation. I am nothing if not infamous for liking some terrible tanks. I mean, I like the TOG too, and it's awful. But the fact that I like the Caernarvon doesn't mean it's a bad tank. It's not a bad tank. It's just not a particularly good one. In the hands of a good player, you can do well in it, but a good player can do well in any tank. The Caernarvon is not particularly good, but that doesn't mean you can't have fun in it. You just better hope that you don't run into competent players on the enemy team, because anybody who knows how to exploit the weaknesses of this tank will give you a seriously hard time. It is certainly a breath of fresh air after driving the Churchill Mark I, 7 and Churchill Black Prince, and for that reason alone I'm pretty sure that British heavy tank drivers are going to have fun driving the Caernarvon as well. And don't forget, it does lead to the Conqueror, and the Conqueror is, well, it's a proper heavy tank. So that's it for the Caernarvon. I hope you enjoyed the video, folks. As always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.